Hey everyone, this is Tony Zioli, founder of Digital Strategy Works, a WordPress web development and digital marketing consulting company here in Asheville, North Carolina. Thanks for joining me today. And I have an important topic that we're going to cover, something that I've been just tuning into over the last 6 months to a year as I've been reading the news reports about ADA compliance for websites, especially WordPress websites. Because that is one of the most popular content management systems in the world today. And it's powering about 33% now of the entire internet, websites on the entire internet, and about 59% of all installed content management systems. All of my clients are on WordPress, and I've just been seeing out there some news reports like in the LA Times and the New York Times about law firms now ambulance chaser type of law firms now realizing that there's a opportunity for them to scour the web and find websites, especially for public spaces like restaurants, museums, art galleries, and sue those site owners for issues related to their website accessibility. And so it's a really important issue. For example, in California and I think in LA County, there's or Orange County, I think it's Orange County, but there's an issue where the DA's office is kind of pushing back against one law firm who have filed over 100 lawsuits for ADA compliance for websites. And then in New York State, there's been about 1,500 ADA, New York City, I'm sorry, there's been about 1,500 ADA lawsuits, and about 100 of those have been against website owners for ADA compliance. In Florida, they're starting to come into play as well in this kind of race to the bottom, if you will, because there's no law out there that gives a website owner the opportunity to do a site audit, if they get notified of some impending lawsuit, that they should have some time to fix the issue. So Congress hasn't passed any kind of law yet to help website owners, let's talk about the GDPR, the General Data Protection regulation in Europe. There's a step-by-step process in the GDPR that says, you're notified, you have a certain amount of time to rectify. If you don't rectify, then it goes to another level, then it goes to another level. That doesn't happen in the United States with ADA compliance. Someone can file a lawsuit today against your website, and it can cost you a significant amount of money in terms of a settlement. And then on top of that, you have to actually make your website ADA compliant, right? So there are some reports that I'm hearing, $8,000 to $15,000 settlements that some website providers or some website owners are having to pay to somebody who filed a lawsuit against them for ADA compliance. And then they're gonna have to turn around and spend, maybe $1,500 to $3,000 on their site to make it completely ADA compliant. Can a website be completely ADA compliant? Well, we can always attempt to make websites as ADA compliant as possible, and that will then, to the nth degree, right? Maybe somebody missed an image description or alt tag, but 99 out of 100 images on your website have all of them. In the court of law, you could say, well, our site is predominantly ADA compliant, and someone just missed that image, and it will at least show a good faith effort on the behalf of the website owner to be ADA compliant, right? So how do you get ADA compliant is going to be the next question on your minds. And there are right now out there web development shops who are focused on ADA compliance, right? But ADA compliance is such a niche part of the web design and development business that it may be somewhat expensive, right? So there are tools that a general website owner can install in Chrome, and I'll write a blog post about this and post it in the forums on the Facebook group and on the page later this week, or share some other information. There are some tools that you can install on your web browser that will scan your website, all your pages, and show you some errors and some warnings, some reds, some yellows, some greens on how your site is already compliant, what things your site is probably in a gray area on, or what you need to in the yellow schema, and then which things definitely need to be fixed. Like, for example, you're on your menu of your website, right? There are title attributes to every element in your menu bar. If you write a page title, that doesn't necessarily mean it's an attribute, right? There's a menu system in WordPress that has the ability to add that keyword that you're using in the title of the page into the attribute for that navigation link, right? In WordPress, when you upload an image, there's a SEO panel for all images that have title, description, alt description, and caption, and you want to fill those out. And your description, when you're uploading an image, you want to describe the image, right? Like a screen reader is going to read back to someone. A screen reader is going to read back to someone who's viewing your website what you wrote in that description field. And if you just wrote my website, right, and in the description field, that doesn't say anything, right? You want to say, or you want to write something that the screen reader is going to read back like a sentence that someone would speak. So for example, I have a client, 67 Biltmore, it's a restaurant in Asheville, and maybe they have a casserole or lasagna that they have an image of. So that description should say, this is a picture of our vegan casserole. Right, period. So when the screen reader reads it back, just like Alexa might read back something, or your iPhone, Siri might say something to you, you want that screen reader to read back the content in the description field like it's a normal, human sentence, right? Not just something brief, right? So yes, it is. It does take time to go back through your media library in WordPress and make sure that all your images are tagged correctly and that all your descriptions have the correct descriptions in them. But once you do that, it's done, and then that every new image that you upload, you're going to make sure that you fill out those fields. Most people they don't know what it's for, and so they just leave it alone. But it's a really important set of fields that can help A, with SEO for your website, and B, with accessibility. And when you are making sure that your site is accessible, then you're speaking to an audience that may not be telling you, but may be frustrated with your site because it's not as accessible as it should be. Now, for 67 Biltmore, we built their theme in Divi. Fortunately, there's an accessibility plugin that kind of works through some of the Divi modules and helps with accessibility in Divi, but that doesn't exist for every theme or every theme framework, right? So you may have a developer do some of the things that that the Divi accessibility plugin does, and you may have to maybe even just transfer your site into Divi and redesign your whole site, right? That's one thing. There is also a WordPress accessibility plugin that you can install that a contributor to the WordPress project wrote, that walks through your site and helps fix certain issues, but not all issues. So there are some basic tools out there to start helping you fix some of these things, but it really behooves the small business owner to do a site audit with a website accessibility specialist. And once they get that site audit, then make those determinations about what needs to be fixed and fix them before the time comes that someone identifies those issues and tries to file a lawsuit against your business. So in some of the blogs that I've been reading, one person said, what's the cost benefit? Well, the cost to you as a small business owner may be negligible today, in terms of applying, a $1,500 or $3,000 spend to making sure that your website is accessible. right? As opposed to having a lawsuit filed against you and having to settle a $15,000 lawsuit and then having to make your site accessible anyway, which ends up costing you 18 to 20,000. So the cost benefit is to getting in front of it today, right? Here are a couple of other accessibility issues. We offer PDF downloads on 67bitmore.com, right? Or many of the sites that I do, they want to offer some kind of PDF download, right? So we want to make sure Adobe offers some kind of tool that allows for accessibility and PDF downloads. So now in my practice, I'm going to be going back to my clients and saying, oh, if we're offering PDF downloads, we need to make sure that they're accessible. I do have a town and towns and cities and have to adhere to state law about accessibility. So this is one thing that I'm going to be going back to them about and saying, okay, in our initial site development, we didn't focus on accessibility. So now let's do an accessibility audit. And you have a lot of PDF downloads that you're offering your town citizens, but we need to make sure that those PDFs that you're generating are accessible as well, right? So that's one type of issue that you might run into, right? Where restaurants have their clients and customers downloading PDF menus, sample menus of catering, or just the general eatery menu, right? Is that they download these files and they can't open them or something like that, right? So we have to address that. Then there are other things that we talk about in terms of website accessibility with people who may not be able to use a mouse, right? They may not be able to click on something. They may not know something is an actual link. They may not be able to navigate through a form. So they have controls that they might use on a keyboard, that the keyboard controls help them step through. Like maybe you have a multi-part form, or you have 20 different fields. Well, how are they going to navigate tab between each form field and then speak to text into that form field their name or something like that, which their screen reader software helps them do. So we need to make sure that the forms are easy to navigate, and that they can have focus states, and that you can make sure that when they're entering data into the form, that data can be entered correctly. And you also have to think about the color scheme of the website. A lot of people, might want black background with white text, but that's notoriously hard to read for most people. And that's why we have, probably the top 100 websites in the world have white backgrounds and black text, or at least some kind of grade, very minimal, background where the text can be easily read. But if we have white text against a black background, that's notoriously hard to read. So we want to adhere to those kind of color schemes. If we're doing this web design, we want to make sure that people that are colorblind aren't, can kind of get the tone of the site without having things wash out or something like that. There's underlining links, which I just mentioned. Somebody may not know. You may have a color and a rollover state for a link, but somebody who's colorblind doesn't even know it's a link. So all links on your website should be underlined, right? That's another, some people may think, oh, well, I don't want all links on my website underlined. I'm not saying that you have to. It's not a requirement by law that they should be underlined, but it's something that you may want to do. So for example, the town website that I've worked on, well, I'm going to go back to them and say, okay, well, for all the links, we're going to set the underline to make sure that they're all underlined. So that way, when your people who are unable to roll over something can see that it's a link, right? So those are the kind of accessibility issues that you're going to face. You're going to want to tap into a WordPress accessibility consultant. That's something that myself here at Digital Strategy Works is learning, and I'm applying or starting to apply to website owners that I work with. And I think it's a really important issue because, for one, it will help with SEO because Google loves to provide that alt description, that alt tag against images in their Google search, and it uses those tags and descriptions to return those images anyway in search, which is important. And it says to anybody who has a disability, this business is paying attention to me, and I want to do businesses that pay attention to me, right? Just like in any, in diversity, with African Americans, with Hispanics, if something's printed in English and Spanish, right? That helps somebody who's just coming to this country legally, or illegally, right? And they need some information. It will help them because you have English and Spanish, right? So you're speaking to that constituency, and you're providing that client or customer with some information that they're armed with now, and that they can say, oh, that company cares about me, right? So if you are paying attention to accessibility guidelines and ADA compliance, then you're going to say to your consumer, this company, or me, my company, my restaurant, my hotel, my museum, whatever, my e-commerce website, is speaking to you as a disabled person, and giving you the opportunity to engage instead of ignoring you, right? Because once you start ignoring those users, you're not going to get that business. This can only grow your business, not hurt your business, right? Hurting your business would be ignoring it, getting sued, having that risk, having a large settlement have to be paid out, and then have to address accessibility anyway. And it would, potentially be bad in terms of reputation management, right? Oh, this restaurant, this hotel, I went to their website, I'm disabled, I'm not going to go to that hotel or restaurant because I, can't access their website. I can't book a reservation. I can't order online or do something like that, right? So they'll tell their friends in that world, and that takes business away. They'll say to maybe somebody who's not disabled, hey, that brand doesn't care about me enough to make the effort, so why should I care enough about them to be their customer, right? So that is the primary fundamental underlying reason why, as a small business owner, you should focus on accessibility, and you should invest some money in it. If you already have a website, it's really an accessibility audit. You come to someone like myself, Digital Strategy Works, where I might have a freelancer who does accessibility audit your site, or as I learn and grow in this field of knowledge, I may do it and be able to apply those fixes ourselves. And then, once you've done that, you can even put on your website, my site is ADA compliant, my site is accessible. And that will give, all your customers and clients the comfort and knowledge that they can work with you, get information from you, make their orders, and get them delivered, whatever have you, right? So it's super important. So I would start, if you have a WordPress website, again, start with contacting an accessibility expert, getting that WordPress plugin for accessibility to solve your general issues with your theme and any plugins that you might have. And then if you have like a theme framework like Elementor already has accessibility built in, Divi has a companion accessibility plugin that someone independently wrote for it. You want to start looking for those things, and if you don't know how to use them, then you want to turn to your accessibility expert, your developer, your designer, who has a background in accessibility, and have them apply these tools to your website. And so once you start doing that and doing the audits and reporting, you can start fixing those issues and making sure that your website is as compliant as possible. And then you can even brand it as such, and hopefully win new clients and customers, and build better reputation for your business. Because again, like I said, if you're ADA compliant, you're speaking to that universe of people that that they'll care about you, and then they'll start talking about you, right? So you're building brand reputation, and then that brand equity, right? So those are the ways that I would start. Contact me if you want, and you can just visit the website, digitalstrategyworks.com, go to the contact form. I'll be looking at my own website, make sure that that's accessible, and make sure that the plugins are accessible as well. So that's another point before I leave, is that a lot of us, just turn to WordPress.org, and we turn to the plugin repo, and we download just any plugin to solve a problem. But the reality is today there are a lot of professional premium plugins out there in the market, and they do have a cost to them. But we want to make sure that those plugins are ADA compliant as well, right? So that will kind of push the theme and plugin developers to make sure that their themes and plugins are ADA compliant. Now, if you're trying to buy themes on ThemeForest, you have to ask, hey, theme vendor, is your theme ADA compliant? And if that theme vendor is, some kid in the Ukraine or India that isn't even paying attention to these kinds of issues, then you're not going to want to use that theme, right? You're going to want to use a theme that is ADA compliant, that has accessibility built in to it, like Elementor's the Hello theme, as well as Elementor's Page Builder plugin, or Divi with its Divi accessibility companion plugin that's free out there on WordPress.org. So start there. Look for plugins that state that they're accessible and are compliant, and put all that together. Put that WordPress plugin for accessibility into your site. Use a Chrome or Firefox add-on to your extension, to your browser that are out there to scan your site and find out any issues that you need to resolve. And then, like I said, work with an accessibility expert, developer, designer to make those fixes and to make yourself compliant. And so hopefully, just by watching this video, it'll give you some insights and some information to take action on this issue and protect yourself from possible future lawsuits, as well as negative brand reputation. Any questions, always post them right here to the page or join our Facebook group for WordPress WP Small Biz, right? And then one more announcement I want to make is that we are launching a blog. It's live now, wpsmall.biz. It's a new blog that we're going to start posting our content to, and we're going to have a podcast, and all our Facebook Live videos are going to be reposted on YouTube and then posted there to the wpsmall.biz blog. And so for any theme developers or plugin developers that are interested in advertising to small business owners, we're going to have advertising opportunities in the podcast, on the video, and on the blog as well. So thank you for tuning in today. We'll be back next week at 11 a.m. with another WP Small Biz live Facebook Live video. And I'll be reposting all these this video and all the previous videos to YouTube, our new channel over there for WP Small Biz, and then getting them onto the blog over the next couple of weeks. So we're growing this little WP Small Biz baby into maybe a bigger Small Biz, and we hope you'll keep joining us for these video chats and to get knowledge and inspiration to grow your business with WordPress. Thank you.